Hi, Zach Reiser here, and welcome back to another Bass Effects review video. Today I am getting into the Infinite Jets Re-Synthesizer from Hologram Effects. The Infinite Jets is a truly one-of-a-kind effects pedal. There's nothing else out there currently that does what it can do. However, it's a little bit hard to explain what it does. It could be considered a granular synthesizer, a very short time frame sampler. It does tremolo effects. It's got built-in drive. It really can go all over the place. Now, I should say up front that this is not your standard bass pedal. You're not going to hear too many funky low-end riffs in this video. This is really a pedal that excels at building spaces and moods and soundscapes. So let's jump into this bad boy. Let's start with my dry tone, as usual, Dingwall ABZ Six String on the neck pickup. Honestly, you're not going to hear a ton of my dry bass in this video. Let's start with the first preset, which is the blur setting. So as the name would imply, the blur presets are kind of smearing your sound, giving you this nice kind of cloud wash texture. Real quick, the controls are pretty dense, and I'm going to go through them kind of as I need to in the video, but one of the obvious ones is the dry knob here. So I can roll my dry input up quite a bit more to have the kind of blur a little bit more in the background, like this. Or vice versa, I can have the dry completely off and get that pure kind of smeared atmospheric sound. So these three controls are really kind of, in my opinion, the heart and soul of what shapes your sound on the Infinite Jets. Let's start with the envelope shape. So this is kind of the contour of the volume of the effect or the swell. So if I'm on a square wave, for instance, it's going to be really sharp attack and decay. So it sounds like this. So you can hear it's very kind of cut and dry on either side. Whereas if I move over here a little bit to the sine wave shape, it's going to be smoothed out on the attack and decay, and it would sound something like this. So now let's talk about the envelope time. The envelope time is what it sounds like. It's how long it takes for the envelope to occur. So here is the short side. You can hear you just get these little puffs that kind of come in. If I put this up around 10 o'clock, it's going to be kind of a medium length. And then if we start getting towards the max of the range, we get these nice long swells. You notice there's an infinite setting. So this is what it sounds like. It's going to kind of give you that Electro-Harmonix freeze thing where it just goes on forever, like this. And this will go all the way until I play something different. Now, one other very cool feature on the envelope time is the looping mode. So if I go all the way to the right here, it's going to loop whatever envelope I have selected, kind of turning it into like a weird synthesizer tremolo. So that'll sound a little bit something like this. So hopefully you have a decent idea now of what the envelope shape and the envelope time do for shaping kind of the contour of your line. Now, the dimension knob actually has a different function in every single preset, and I'll kind of briefly talk about it with each preset. But let's move on to the second blur mode, which is an octave up on the blur. So I'm going to take my dry signal out and I'm going to turn the dimension up quite a bit. And the dimension on this particular preset is essentially a delay, reverb, kind of space adding feature here. And we get more into some real kind of pad territory. All right, I'm going to skip preset number 3, which is the octave down blur mode. On bass, it just is a little bit too muddy. The next preset, though, is the fourth blur preset, and it's an octave up and an octave down. And here I want to demonstrate the difference in the trigger modes. So in mono mode, the settings as shown would sound like this. You can kind of hear there's a little bit of an abrupt cutoff between A and B. Now, the cool part here is when I go to poly mode, this is actually allowing A and B to blend into each other depending on the length of the envelope. So if the envelope is really short, it's not going to sound a whole lot different than mono mode. But now in poly, let's hear some more octaves, and you'll hear they kind of blur together from note to note. All right, moving on to synth. So things change quite a bit here in these synth presets. The first synth preset is kind of this hard digital sounding synthesizer tone. It doesn't track super fast in the sense you can't play like quick funky lines, but it's great for slow kind of melodic synthesizer lines. Let's hear a little bit of synth A here. Or I could do something like loop a square wave envelope like this. Now, in synth A mode, the dimension knob is a low-pass filter. So we get this kind of sound here as I turn the knob. Classic synth filter sound here. But if I want to automate that, I have a couple different options. I can, for instance, automate it with an LFO and make it sound like this. And then, of course, I have control of the LFO speed by doing this secondary function with the envelope time. Moving on to Synth B, this is kind of less of that gritty digital sound, and it's more of kind of the soft pad like digital synthesized tones you might get. I have a very long sweeping LFO here controlling that low pass filter, and a little bit of a slow envelope as well. Now, I've had my dry signal rolled out for quite a while because I want to really show off these effects, but of course you could make it more subtle, more classic, roll your dry signal in, and then these kind of synthesized pads are going to be behind your dry signal. Now, before leaving the Synth B setting here, I want to show another very cool feature of the Infinite Jets. The dimension knob and the drive knob actually can be manually controlled and recorded to kind of create your own LFO shape. So I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm going to hold down the middle foot switch. I'm going to kind of twiddle the dimension knob a little bit to set my own filter shift here, and then see what that sounds like when I let it automate what I did manually. So you could really get into some pretty clever territory here by creating your own LFO envelopes to control the filter cutoff or any dimension parameter on the Infinite Jets. All right, moving on to one of my personal favorite settings on the Infinite Jets are the two glitch modes. The first glitch is kind of your standard stuttering short sample rate delay. It would sound something like this. Now you can hear that sounds a little bit sterile because it's not ever changing, but yet again, you can record dimension knob movements here, and the dimension knob controls the sampling or delay time. So if I turn it all the way up, it's a delay like this. And then I can get straight up granular. So if I want those delay times to be a little bit more random, I can record my own dimension setting. And now my glitch mode is going to sound like this. Glitch mode B is probably my personal favorite setting on the Infinite Jets. It's going to give you kind of the randomness that I just had to program on glitch A just right off the bat. One other very, very cool feature of Glitch Mode B is that it actually stores the short samples on the dimension knob, and you can control this manually with an expression pedal, or yet again recording your manual movement. So let me just kind of play an arpeggio, and it'll glitch each note of the arpeggio, and then I'll show you what happens when you turn the dimension knob. So So now all of those are stored, and now when I return or turn the dimension knob, moving on to the last two presets, these are the two swell presets. And these are more of kind of your slightly standard volume swell or tremolo effects, but with the Infinite Jet's own play on it. So knobs as shown. So let's increase the envelope time, put my dry signal in, and then I turned the dimension knob just a little bit, wiggling it back and forth, and recorded that movement to give me kind of that chorused delay sound here for a really just lush background pad setting. Looping the envelope and then turning my dry signal down a little bit gives me more that kind of tremolo territory. And then I can turn up the dimension to add some space and delay to the same sound. Swell Mode B kind of brings in the same tremolo swell effects, but it adds this really gritty, almost fuzz texture on top of it. And let's get a little bit crazier with Swell Mode B here, an even longer kind of swelling envelope. And then I recorded my own dimension knob setting, which is changing that delay time pretty drastically to give you some big kind of pitch changing effects. Now, lastly, that I've gone through all the presets, the one control I have not touched yet is the drive knob, a very cool way to kind of shape your sound. So I went back to one of these blur presets here with no drive. It sounds like this. And now I'm going to crank that drive up to about noon, and you'll hear a lot of grit and kind of extra noise comes in. On synthesizer mode B with no drive. And then let's just for fun, let's almost max the drive here. One other very cool feature about the drive knob is that you can record the knob movements of the drive knob just like you can the dimension. So now I'm rolling that drive knob back and forth slowly. So that was my demo of the Infinite Jets re-synthesizer from Hologram Effects, an incredibly unique, interesting textural pedal. One thing I didn't mention is that they also give you 2 preset slots as well, so you can set up anything you want on the pedal exactly how you want it and save it so that it's always there for later use. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe below. It really does help me out. And I will be back very soon with more pedal and effects reviews, tips and tricks, and performance videos. Thank you so much for watching.